The Journey of Magellan. Introduction and background. You probably know Christopher Columbus, the great world explorer, don't you? He lived over 500 years ago. At that time there were no motorways, aeroplanes, or railways. People went on foot and used horse-drawn carts and ships for transporting goods. Columbus wanted to find a way from Europe to India to go by ship. One route towards east, across the seas was known already, a very far and tedious one all along the African coast. Columbus thought, there must be an alternative way, towards west, from Europe to India. Going west meant crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Columbus did not make it to India. Nevertheless, his voyages were successful. He discovered many areas in America. After Columbus' voyages the world was still far from being fully discovered. Assumptions, but no proof existed that planet Earth was a sphere rather than a disk. So far, no one had ever gone round. Spain and Portugal, two neighboring kingdoms in Europe, were in competition for discovering and conquering the world. At that time, the rule was that whoever entered a country could control and command it. That means he can rule over the inhabitants and cash in on the mineral resources, valuable plants, and everything else. This is called land grabbing or colonialism, derived from the word colony. Today there are countries and political borders. Where one country ends and another begins is mutually recognized. Spain and Portugal had divided the world among themselves. Their kings had clearly stated in a treaty who was allowed to sail on which seas and seize unoccupied territories. Sea voyages were popular. Finding new territories was not just a matter of adventure. An expedition promised treasures and power. Foreign lands promised valuable things that were not available at home. Purpose of the trip. Spices were particularly sought after and incredibly expensive. They were traded like gold. Think about what is so valuable about spices and what they can be used for. Without spices everything would somehow taste the same. Imagine an apple strudel without cinnamon, vanilla pudding without vanilla. Gingerbread at Christmas would be as bland as birdseed. Spice plants do not grow everywhere. Most spices came from very far away, prominently from some islands named after them, the Spice Islands, Maluku Islands or Moluccas. The Spice Islands are located far to the east, in the Pacific Ocean. That's even further east than India. The extremely profitable trade in spices to Europe was shared by overland traders in the east, Indian, Persian, Arab, Ottoman and Venetian traders. The only other option was transport across the seas by ship. The Portuguese knew the only sea route at the time and kept it a secret. This route led circuitously around Africa to the east. Woe to any foreign ship that might appear there. Spain, of course, was also desperate to get to the Spice Islands and to become rich through trade. The Portuguese did not allow anyone use their route. Thus, Spain had to find a route the other way round, via the west to the Spice Islands. No one knew whether this would be possible at all. If so, it would finally prove that planet Earth is a sphere. There was no navigation system or GPS at that time. Such device would have been of little use at sea anyway, because a ship had no electricity to recharge. A good means for orientation was the sky, or more precisely the position of the sun, moon, and stars. The Spanish king assigned Magellan, an experienced navigator, to find the shortest possible route to the Spice Islands. Magellan had made a discovery in a dusty secret archive, some maps from an old sailor who had drawn a possible passage from the Atlantic to another sea, 40th latitude. Seeing those maps Magellan decided to embark on the adventure. He was thrilled. If the passage really existed, there would be no need to take the lengthy route via Africa and no risk to get in the way of the Portuguese. In the TaTaBook you can experience Magellan's adventure as if you had been part of his crew. What kind of person was Magellan, what did a ship look like, and what dangers did sailors have to go through? 7 tactile plates await you, as well as many exciting questions. Magellan, person. Ferdinand Magellan was actually Portuguese. After a dispute with the Portuguese king, however, he changed sides and made the voyage on behalf of the Spanish crown. Ferdinand Magellan was a small man with a bushy full beard, 34 years of age. One could easily overlook him, as he was anything but a dazzling figure. Nevertheless, when necessary, he could be very convincing to anyone. He was truly good at inspiring others with his ideas and plans. His left leg was paralyzed from previous voyages. Magellan felt attracted by wealth and fame. But he also knew that he might not survive the voyage. To be on the safe side, Magellan made a will to ensure that his wife and son would get everything that belonged to him. Ships and voyages are incredibly expensive. The Spanish king, but also a merchant, paid for the equipment. The merchant also provided trade goods, fabrics and clothing, glass beads, mirrors, combs, knives, that were meant to be exchanged for spices later on. Goods were exchanged, not bought and sold as you know it. Money in foreign currency would have no value in a faraway place. Plate 1 World Map. It was in autumn 1519, around 500 years ago, when the sea voyage began. A total of 5 ships with 242 men set out from southern Spain at the Atlantic coast. Magellan was chief captain on the ship called Trinidad. The remaining 4 ships had sub-captains. It often happened that the sub-captains and also crew members disobeyed Magellan. After all, Magellan was Portuguese and most of the crew were Spanish. Nevertheless, Magellan was the commander-in-chief. He was very strict, gave many orders and kept his plans a secret, where to sail, where to stop, etc. Frequently, the crew encountered heavy storms, gales and sharks. Many members got scared and wanted to turn back home. The first stop was after 600 kilometers, at the Canary Islands, more precisely Tenerife. The journey there took 6 days. Fresh drinking water and food were replenished. And on it went. After 11 weeks the crew had crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Land in sight. They reached the Bay of Rio de Janeiro, which belongs to South America. Everything there seemed somehow unusual. There were olive-colored people. They had a foreign language, different clothes, and behaved strangely. There were exotic fruits like pineapples. Hammocks were hanging between palm trees, and the coast was not made of coarse gravel, but of white and sandy beaches. For the 3 remaining ships, Trinidad, Victoria, Conception, the voyage went on through the Pacific Ocean in an arc towards the northwest. During those 100 days they did not encounter any inhabited island. Another 19 men died of hunger, thirst and disease. At last, on one of the Marianan Islands, the totally starved and weakened survivors found food again. They were able to replenish their supplies. 150 remaining sailors landed on the 21st of March, 1521 as the first Europeans in the Philippines, that is the name of a group of islands in the Pacific, most importantly, inhabited ones. The encounter was unusual for both sides. People who let their hair grow to their knees and anoint themselves with coconut oil was a strange sight for the sailors. The island people, one also calls them islanders, thought until then that they were alone in the world. They didn't know what property meant until now everything had belonged to everyone. Finding no fault in their behavior, the islanders helped themselves to things on the ship. Magellan scared them away and named the island Thieves' Island. After the ships had replenished their supplies, they set off again. Soon they came to the next Philippine island, called Macao. The king there understood Magellan's interpreter, his name, Enrique. Enrique had once been shipped as slave from his home island, Sumatra, to Portugal. Thus, Enrique was the first person to sail around the entire world. Colonization of the Philippines, Magellan had made a deal with the Spanish king, he was to take possession of islands and their treasures. As a reward, Magellan would receive 1/20 of whatever he delivered. The first island Magellan had in mind was Cebu. But how to make it clear to the islanders that from now on they would have to obey someone else? First of all, with impressive and intimidating cannon shots. Besides, Magellan held religious services, accompanied by even more cannon shots. So far, the islanders have had their own religion and believed in their own gods. Completely frightened, they converted to Christianity. Magellan left a Christian cross behind which the islanders, including their chief, had to worship. Involuntarily, they got baptized. The journey continued. On Mactan, a neighboring Philippine island, people were rebellious. Never would they submit to the Spanish king. Never. And so it happened that when the sailors rowed towards the island, the 27th of April, 1521, they encountered 1,500 angry islanders armed with arrows made of fish bones. Magellan, totally enraged, ordered a village to be set on fire. Seeing this, the islanders became even angrier. A poisoned arrow and 2 lance thrusts finally killed Magellan. The rest of the crew fled back to their ships. This flight did not remain unrecognized. Continuing the journey after Magellan's death. The chief of Cebu, whom Magellan had baptized, thought Magellan had been killed and the sailors been driven away. Thus, Christianity does not confer invincibility after all. There is no reason and no need to submit to foreign sailors nor to convert to a foreign religion. Therefore, the chief of Cebu ordered all introduced changes to be reversed. After Magellan's death, the displaced crew sailed on towards the Spice Islands. Unlike Magellan, the new captain, Revello, was a bad navigator. The Conception got damaged and sank. The only ships remaining now were Victoria and Trinidad. Revello was not only a poor navigator, but also a bad and barbaric captain who attacked foreign ships. When realizing that a man on one of the attacked ships came from the Spice Islands, Revello ordered him to come with him and show the way. After altogether 27 months, the 6th of November, 1521, the sailors finally reached the Spice Islands, Moluccas. Luckily, this time there was a warm welcome. The Moluccan king gave a lavish feast. In his eyes, the foreign men were promising trading partners. Many goods from Spain looked exotic and valuable. Just as the goods there looked exotic and valuable to the far-traveled sailors. There were cloves, figs, almonds, pomegranates, sugar cane, coconut, sesame and many other unknown temptations. Trinidad and Victoria now had things, or goods, on board that were completely different from those that had been loaded at the very beginning. Only one challenge remained, to bring them home to Spain. As an add-on, some gifts from the Moluccan king were also on board, including even a hummingbird. The route from Spain to the Spice Islands had been so arduous for the sailors to find, and many, including Magellan, had died. The way back was also long, 15,000 kilometers, but comparatively easy to find. Undoubtedly, the way existed, as it had been used by others many times already, eastern route Portugal Spice Islands. To make it even easier, the Moluccan king sent 2 of his men to guide the crew. Thus, the 47 remaining men from Spain plus 2 Moluccans set off. Because the Trinidad was becoming increasingly unstable and leaky, it had to be abandoned. The only remaining ship to continue the way back to Spain was the Victoria. It was a risky way, since enemies, namely Portuguese ships to protect the secret route, were in alert and could be lurking anywhere. Portuguese ships prevented the Victoria from calling at ports. Being forced to keep a distance from the coasts, Victoria had no chance of replenishing its food supply. No land for 90 days. The meat on board had been stored without cooling and thus gone bad. The situation on the ship worsened due to a disease, scurvy. First the men got tremendous toothaches, then their teeth fell out. Some men fantasized. What they had experienced in the meantime was certainly enough to go crazy. The route led south around the tip of Africa, the 19th of May, 1522. There, at Cape of Good Hope, a storm destroyed the ship's main mast. The Victoria had to moor at Cape Verde, the 9th of July, 1522. This was very dangerous because Cape Verde belonged to the Portuguese colony. Trying to deceive the Portuguese did not work for long. No, we have nothing to do with Spain and Magellan's voyage. We? No, not us. But the Portuguese quickly recognized the lie. Again, the Victoria had to flee immediately. On the 6th of September, 1522, the Victoria arrived with 18 survivors at the Spanish port where it had all begun, in Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Nobody had expected them anymore, not after 3 years' time. There was glory for the first complete circumnavigation of the world. It brought final proof that the earth is round. The only captain that returned alive asked the Spanish king to waive customs duty on the goods. The king agreed. The voyage was documented in great detail in a diary. Out of more than 240 men, not even 20 completed the voyage.